feel like it's something that, you don't just embrace you're awkward, at a certain point and then everything's a cakewalk after that. I feel like it's um, depending on what's going on, it may be something like you have to continue to work on.
Welcome back to the Own Your Awkward podcast. I'm your host, Andy Vargo, and every episode we get into what has made our guests vulnerable and how they've learned how to own their awkward in order to live their best life. Stay tuned so you can hear every awkward moment in today's show. Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of the Own Your Awkward podcast. Today is going to be so much fun. We have Jennifer English here, and Jennifer has just taken on a new position in a space that she has been very comfortable in, very much a force to make change and make just so much empowerment for our community. And so it's a new position, but not a new reality for her as the director at Spaceworks in Tacoma here. Jennifer, how are you? Thank you for joining us.
I'm doing very well, very well. I'm on vacation. I'm just kind of floating around. And I'll be the official director when I go back on the 5th.
That is so exciting. We are gonna just see so many good things coming from that, as we already do. So I can't wait. We're gonna get into that in a minute. We're gonna find out what your awkward is. You're on vacation. What's the most positive thing you see going on in the world while you're not working right now?
Oh, man, the world, not a lot in my world. I've been trying to buy paint for my house for a year.
All right.
Yeah. So here's the thing. So Sherwin-Williams has a 40% off sale, like twice a year.
Oh, gotcha.
And it's about 6 months ago, 7 months ago, I remembered, oh crap, it's the last day of the sale. And so I went on my phone and I've had my colors picked out for a couple years, like I'm ready to go.
Right.
And I order it and I go to bed. And a couple days after that, I'm like, man, I haven't seen a confirmation email from
Uh-oh.
Sherwin-Williams. So I go in and I look and I open the app thing and it's on the checkout page. Like it didn't, there
Oh
was
no,
one
it didn't
more
process.
thing I needed to press and I didn't do it. And I mean, this was like saving me over $600.
Right. Yeah,
Like
that's a
I like to
sizable
say,
discount. It's
I
worth
like,
it's worth waiting.
yeah, I like to say 40%, it's almost 50%. So
Wow. Yeah.
like,
Right.
it's almost 50%. So I'm like, well, I'll just wait till they do it again. And then they just had it last week. And so I did it and I made sure it went through.
Mm-hmm.
And then a couple days goes by because they're supposed to call you when it's ready. No confirmation email. And I'm like, you
Oh.
motherfucker. So I I go in the app and it doesn't show that I've purchased anything. But I
Hmm.
look at my credit card and it says there's a charge. And so
Okay.
I'm like, aha,
Right.
I have proof that
Something
I
went
wasn't
through. Yes.
dreaming. Yes. And so I
Uh-huh.
called the store and they're like, "Oh yeah, we have the order." But,
Oh,
so
well, that's good. Yeah.
yeah, I had a little paint PTSD
Yeah, that's scary.
from
And
that. So,
I
so
can't
that's
wait.
the best thing.
That's exciting. Yeah. Sometimes there's something about those stressful moments that kind of make us nervous that when it's solved, all of a sudden it's like, oh, like it was maybe unnecessary stress, but worthy to be concerned and check on.
Yeah.
But it
Well, I
runs through the
really
exercise.
yeah, and I really need to paint my house. Like I got I got the gutters done, the roof and the gutters done a couple years ago, and they moved where the gutters were. So
Oh,
where those were, it's just raw wood.
yeah.
So like I
Excellent.
need to like
Definitely.
get my shit sealed. So, but
Well,
yeah.
for those of you who are listening and not watching, I just have to paint a picture because Jennifer is so creative. And if you're watching, you can see it. But she is sitting in just such a creative space right now. We got lights in the background. We've got the the mummy back there that you said you actually made the mummy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a sarcophagus.
So, excuse me,
I
a
did
sarcophagus. Fair. That
I
is fair. Yeah, it's not the
did
actual mummy. You're right. It is
I,
the encasement.
I did make a mummy for it though.
Oh, wow.
but it didn't survive my move to this house. So, I mean, I lived like half a mile away. I always live like within a mile of downtown in case like
Mhm.
a car breaks down. I can
Sure.
always walk to work,
Yeah.
like, um, but the head like fell off the mummy and I was just like, yeah, I'm over it. So I took it to the dump to throw it out to just see if they thought it was a real dead body, but
Oh, funny.
nobody cared. Nobody cared.
Oh, that's funny. It's interesting when you observe what's going on around you, and it's fun to sit at a bar in a coffee shop and make up that story of like, why are these people here? What's their backstory? What's going on? And sometimes we do that just when we see things. It's like, oh, this must be what's going on, and it's funny to think that other people are doing that for our lives as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I try not to do too much of that. It's usually if I see something super eccentric or just wild or
Right.
not usual.
Hmm.
And then it's like, oh, what are they doing? Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. Um, I try not to get into worrying about what I think people are thinking about me, which is super hard,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's, but man, I feel like you just waste a lot of time, or not, maybe not time, but energy,
Definitely.
um, on that because you could never know.
Right. Yeah, I talk about that in my talks and I think we talked about this when we did the Spacework conference, where people look at you and you approach them and they're like, oh, you know, Andy is maybe holding back, and you can tell he's not saying something, and I can tell that he's not putting everything out there. And most people assume that it's because there's something that I want to hide from them because I have this, really devious plan. It's like, oh, I don't want Jennifer to know this thing that I'm hiding, or that I actually could come down even more on my price on this thing I'm trying to sell her, or whatever that thing is. And in reality, it might just be that, like, I forgot to put deodorant on today and I don't want to get too close, or you
That's
know,
a that's like, oh my God, thinking you smell is the worst, is the worst.
oh yeah.
I have like really sweaty feet and I will like, man, I love wearing like Birkenstocks, but
Hmm.
after a certain point they get rotten, like
Oh.
just rotten. And you don't know till you're like at a meeting sitting at a desk with someone and you get a whiff of like rotten Birkenstock and you're like, oh my God, it happened.
Oh.
And then you're like, oh my God, can they smell it? And then that's all you can think about and obsess
Right.
over. And then you can't make like good choices.
Yeah, people are like, so Jennifer, what do you think about this? And you're like, I'm sorry, I was worrying that my feet stink right now.
Yeah.
That is funny. No, it's true though, because like I've had that where someone walks by and you catch like the whiff of BO or something. It's like, wait, I
Can
know
they
I
not
put
smell
deodorant on
themselves?
today. Was that
Uh,
them? Was it me? Or like you smell it twice, and I'm like, wait, is it actually me? Or it's like,
and
wait,
you do the like
yeah.
the sneaky sniff
Oh, I try not to. I
where you're
just
like,
lock arms down. I'm just like, I am
or
not.
just to see, to check. You gotta check
Yeah.
yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's true. Um, yeah. So speaking of awkward feelings and stinky feet and smelly armpits,
Yeah.
yeah, what is your awkward thing that you have had to embrace and own to just live this amazing life?
Oh man. It's so I was thinking about this earlier because obviously I know I was gonna be here
Right.
tonight. Um, and I was like, what would it be? I feel like it's still, and I'll get to what it is, but I feel like it's something that, you don't just embrace you're awkward, at a certain point and then everything's a cakewalk after that. I feel like it's um depending on what's going on, it may be something like you have to continue to work on. Mine is credibility
Hmm.
because I'm not the typical business type person. The way I facilitate the classes for Spaceworks, I'm not your typical facilitator. Um, and so I feel like, and I'm going to use I and me, and I feel like because I know it's all inside my head.
Sure.
But it's what I had to overcome, feeling this awkward of, um, God, I'm just like this goofy lady, you know,
Mhm.
that swears in class. Like, I don't think, um, I think that's why awkward, but it's still
No,
sometimes I'm like, gosh, but do people take me seriously?
right.
Do they think, oh, this lady didn't know what she's talking about because she doesn't speak, formally? Um, and so that's my awkward that I struggle with all the time.
No, I love that. And it's interesting because to me, like this is a perfect example of where the awkward becomes a superpower because that's what I see as so magnetic for your personality that it's this breath of fresh air and that I'm going to see you in the chamber office in the downtown building and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, it's the big thing to go downtown,
It's the big building,
go up the escalator, the elevator and visit the chamber office." And it's like, "Wait,
the ivory tower.
you're like sitting there having a popsicle, hanging out, being like, you know what? This is where we're at, and we
Yeah,
got this event tonight." And it's
those
just,
were good popsicles.
but it makes it so
Yeah.
approachable, and it actually kind of diffuses the situation where it makes people actually be able to relax and get more out of what they're there for.
Yeah. I appreciate that. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
It's interesting that you use the word credibility because you've used that word with me once before, and I don't know if you even remember this, but it really stuck in my head because we were at the business resource fair out at PLU
Yeah.
a couple months back, and we were talking about something, and I was mentioning how I don't like to lean into the humor because I want to be taken serious. And you use that same word. You said, yeah, because it's that sense that you might not be seen as credible. And I was like,
Yeah.
that's exactly it. I hadn't put my like finger on it. But when you said that, I've started being able to explain that better when I've talked to people about, oh, why haven't I leaned into it? So I can totally relate to that.
Yeah. I even got a book called Credibility.
Oh, wow.
It's a
I
bit
love
it's a
that.
business leadership book. I haven't read it yet. I'll pass it along.
Yeah, I can't wait
Um,
to check that out.
yeah. Not that I'm looking to like change who I am or how I approach things, but
Mhm.
I learned something in uh the Business Leadership Academy last year, and it helped me a lot because when I do the 12-week cohort, I have a very short period of time to gain all of their trust, all of the
Oh,
participants,
right.
right? It's only 12 weeks long, and I they need to trust me with, very intimate parts of who they are, their business, their baby,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And where they're at, and I have, one or two classes, so six, no more than 6 hours, really, to get
Right.
them to trust me, because then we're into class. And um, what I learned in Business Leadership Academy was that in my introduction, tell people what kind of leader I am.
Gotcha.
And
Yeah.
just right off the bat, so they know, oh, she's fun, um, can be crass sometimes, but very passionate,
Right.
um, not going to use a whole lot of jargon,
Mhm.
um, and be just really honest about everything. So that's helped me just set the stage for credibility, is just saying right off the bat, this is who I am and how I work,
Mhm.
and I hope you have a really good time.
I love that because it actually it's not just, oh, here's my resume, here's where I'm coming from
Mm-mm,
in the past, this is why I'm in this position.
no,
But it's something relatable that says, this is what you can expect, this is how you can work with me. And it helps people to know, kind of what they're walking into. It's like if you go to someone's house and someone's like, oh, by the way, it's really formal in there. Don't, put your cup down without you having a coaster and, take your shoes off at the door, whatever, versus, oh, by the way, it's like a frat party and there's kegs and cups all over. Like
I'm
it's something
somewhere
you
in
should know
between.
before you go in, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Jennifer, I'm curious, when you like, was there a point where you actually noticed that there was that difference where it was questioning your credibility, where you said, I got to step into the situation, all right? I feel a little bit uncomfortable here.
Um, I don't question my credibility.
Hmm.
Um, if I question, I worry that, I'll lose out on partnerships or collaborations
Oh, sure.
or,
Like if they don't view
have
you with the same credibility as that people,
right,
right? Yeah.
right. They'll be like, oh, why would I want to collaborate with? They don't know anything. I think
Hmm.
it's also sometimes spurred by imposter syndrome, which no one can escape.
Right.
Um, that's a nice little surprise that pops up now and then. Um, Hello,
Yeah.
darkness, my old friend. Um, but, but yeah, it's everything's connected, right?
Yeah.
Everything feeds into everything else, and how you use it, for good instead of evil. Um, it's all in just recognizing those thoughts that you're having.
Right. Now I'm
And like,
I'm sure my listeners are sick of hearing me tell this story because anytime someone brings up imposter syndrome, I absolutely have to tell it. It's my favorite like mind trick that has worked for me. But my friend Melissa, who's a neuroscientist who has given a TED talk about imposter syndrome, when she was on my podcast, was talking about imposter syndrome, and she had spoken in front of the largest group she'd ever spoken in front of. And afterwards, she's in the hotel, just like, "Oh my God, I'm such an imposter. They're gonna know." And what did I just do? But one of the things she shared was how the more successful people have a higher likelihood, or it happens more often with imposter syndrome. Like, so the more successful you are, the more you're gonna have it because you're putting yourself out there.
yeah.
So what I have learned to do is whenever I have that feeling of imposter syndrome, I'm just like, yes, it's happening. I must be
Yes.
successful because there that bastard is right on time.
Yes.
And it actually works for me to just be like, thank you. Like it's like just the sign of like, okay, things are on track because that little thing is there. But
I but my strategy is very, fuck it. Just fuck it.
mm,
Like I know it's me. Fuck it.
right. Yeah. Yeah. Like this is just something in my head.
Yeah.
It's not a real
Just fuck
thing.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, if something happens, what I told my car a few months ago, it's my mantra for many, many, many years when something bad happens, or unfortunate, is it'll work out. It always
Yeah.
does.
Yeah.
And not to sound like toxic positivity, but um, I definitely think, I don't know if we're in a simulation or whatever, but I think definitely putting out those intentions helps.
Definitely. And it is true because, you know, things might not happen the way we want, but things will work out. I mean, they have a way of coming around. There may be some pain, there may be some, oh God, like how am I gonna pay that bill right now? Or how am I gonna, when is this pain gonna end? But it does end at some point. And if we get so stuck focusing on the pain, then how miserable is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So so now I have to know. You talk about like the fear of like the initial maybe thought that maybe someone won't want to collaborate, but I don't get the sense that that's been an issue. Like, has
No. No.
exactly? I don't even know what question to ask there, other than like, has it even held you back?
No. No, no, no. Because
Uh,
it's all in my head, right?
right.
It's that struggle of owning your awkward.
Hmm. Did you have a time where you tried to use the jargon and show up, speak in a certain way?
No. Well, no, but also we act differently in different spaces. So if God, I used to have this aunt. She was married into the family. She was terrible. But her family belonged to the yacht club.
Okay. I like how you
And
said like the yacht
the
club.
yacht club up north. So
Yeah.
like Everett and stuff, very, very fancy. And you could behave, right? Have manners and,
Right.
act differently, right? That's not natural for me. But so I don't know, I can behave in spaces,
Mhm.
more formal
The
spaces,
ability is
and
there.
I'm good at masking, I think. Like
Right. Well, and
it's
I think there's one thing of, there's a difference in uh, shifting what's appropriate for different circumstances. You're not gonna talk the same way or even broach the same subjects with friends that you're going out for happy hour with that you're going to talk about, in a business meeting, or maybe you don't want to broach certain subjects with, your parents or whatever, versus what you're going to get into with your friends, or stories you might not tell about. Oh, I want them to know what I did Friday night.
but you know what? I push that. I push it.
Do you?
I push that envelope because, and I think, I don't know if it's because I'm 45 now. I have there's not that that's old, but there's a lot of younger folks out there that view me as old. That 45 is old. It's not. I don't think it is.
Yeah.
I just want to be clear.
Well,
I
I
don't
have a
think,
lot of younger friends. I have friends ranging from 20 to 89.
right?
It's just so, yeah, it's interesting to hear people say something like, "Oh yeah, it's an older guy. He was probably in his mid 40s." And I was like, "Uh, no,
Wait, yeah.
older than you."
But I think I'm grandfathered into this quirkiness.
Hmm.
So I feel like it's the old grandma that, says fuck you to everybody and really says really important really uh distasteful things to young people, um but can get away with it because of her age. I feel like I'm like
You're entering that
slowly getting
space.
there. I'm not there yet. I'm not there
Right.
yet, but um I think that age adds to credibility.
It does. Well,
Wisdom. I don't know
and
if it's, you know,
yeah.
an
Well, and
always
also,
and thing.
right. But I think one of the things that I love about our local business community, anyway, at least the connections that I'm connected with in our community, it's a very real connection, and there isn't this we're going to show up as different people when we're talking business than when we're just talking about our day and when we're talking about our life with friends. And it really does blur the balance between friendship and business connections, because we are just here in the community making the space better.
Yeah, yeah. I'm, it's those connections that, like you said, make the space, our, Tacoma, Pierce County, better. It's
Mhm.
those collaborations and the, helping fight for your neighbor. Um, that's why we're so strong out here. Um, but if you're doing business, always have a contract. Yeah.
Fair. Yeah. Yeah, that is true. Yeah, you gotta shore those things up. It's interesting because I hear you talk about being comfortable, being different, and not everybody can just do that. And I know there's probably people where when they meet you, it is a little bit of a shock. Like, oh, she just blurted that out in the middle of our class and used the F bomb or whatever the thing is, right? And just said fuck it, whatever. And people are like, oh, I didn't expect that. Have you found where you've worked with people who weren't in that comfortable space and have been able to shift into it through getting to know you more?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I can read a room pretty good. And uh but they always warm up. I think because I'm well timed. I
Hmm.
think if I wasn't doing what I was doing, I would be a comedian. Um,
There's still time,
there's still time. Yeah. Um, maybe when I'm old, because
right?
then it'll be a whole thing.
Yeah.
It'll be
You
really funny.
have lots of stories.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's um, I forgot what I was talking about.
Oh, about being well timed and
Oh,
warming people up to their.
people warm up to me really, really quickly.
Yeah.
Um, I'm friendly.
Yes, you are. It's a shame if you're listening that you can't see Jennifer smile. I know you can hear her
Uh,
laugh. You can hear her smile,
you
but
can hear it. I
it
used
but
to
it it's
I
very
used to do
inviting.
telemarketing when I was like 16.
Okay.
16 or 17. My best friend April that we own
Yeah.
SPUN together with, we went to high school together. We've been best friends for almost 30 years. Yikes. I think it's 30 years this year, actually. And we worked at the athletics club. It was
Okay.
like the only one down in Auburn. And we were upstairs in their giant conference room calling people and giving free like 5-day, 10-day memberships.
Oh wow. Okay.
So, and they always used to say, smile when you're talking because they can hear it through the phone.
Right. I've heard that too. Like they can hear if you're happy.
Yep,
Well, speaking of Spun, speaking of more with Spaceworks, let's talk about both those things. I'd love to
sure.
hear. I keep mentioning Spaceworks. We've talked about it. People outside of Tacoma may have no idea what it is, and I still hear some people in Tacoma confused about what Spaceworks does because they relate it to how it started, and they think, oh, that's all it's really doing. And so I'd love to hear you explain that, and then we definitely want to get in to getting some info around Spun and April too.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So Spaceworks has been around for 13 years. We had our 10-year anniversary during COVID. So we had this huge party planned, huge event, and just like so many other things, didn't happen. So here we are, year 13. Um, Spaceworks back in the day, the first thing it was about was, public art. The first project was the Woolworth windows, um, right there on Commerce. You go up 11th and on Commerce and up those, the old Woolworth building is just full of servers from AT&T. And T. And so the city was like, we don't want this just vacant building that takes up an entire block just sitting here, not with nothing in those big windows. And so they formed a partnership with Spaceworks. And so there's rotating art that goes throughout all those windows, 2D, 3D, all kinds of cool stuff. And that extended to murals. And this is why people don't know everything that Spaceworks does is because we have, um, two arms. We have Artscapes, which is all of the public art. Jasmine Brown is the coordinator of that program. I'm the incubator coordinator and now director. And the incubator is all about helping creative entrepreneurs with their business. Artists are business owners too. If you're selling stuff, guess what? You're a business.
Mhm.
Um, but as creatives, we want to do the creative thing and not so much the business side of stuff. And so getting folks set up with business plans. Um, that's what the signature program is, the business plan cohort. That's that 12-week program where
Right.
folks we work on building a business plan. I call in professionals from around town to, I went to art school, so I wouldn't have to take math. So I call in an accountant to
Right.
talk to folks about bookkeeping and all of that, what spreadsheets they need and what kind of software they should be using and all that good stuff. But um, yeah, we're really here to support the creative economy and micro enterprises, which are five or fewer employees.
Okay.
Um, they oftentimes get grouped in with small business, which is up to 500 employees.
Yeah,
They don't do business the same way. These
exactly.
folks, just want to make enough money to hire some employees and, spend time with their family or their hobby or travel.
Yeah.
It's they're not trying to have 500 employees, you know. Maybe
And
they are.
still be
That's cool.
considered a
They could
small
do that.
business, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but a lot of the creatives that I work with, they just want to be comfortable, right?
Mhm.
So they go about business through a different lens, and I'm here to help navigate all of that.
I love that. And like you said, not just you, but all the resources you bring.
Oh yeah, I don't know everything.
Are you sure?
Yeah, pretty sure. I know a lot, random stuff, but yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know everything, but I know a shit ton of people. That's what I say.
Yeah. And that's really where the power comes in because things are changing so much and you don't want someone who's claiming to be an expert in everything because no one can be.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. When I filled out one of my first grant applications or paperwork, I remember one of the questions was like business size or something. And I remember the amount of dollars, it was like $1 million or $2 million. It's like, and I was like, wait, as a small business? And that was before I understood micro business as a separate category, which you
Yeah.
could still be transacting a lot of volume in dollars depending on, what services or what you're doing. But
Yeah.
it was shocking. I was like, oh my gosh, I always thought of small businesses as like, the little guys barely getting by, which is really more starters and startups and that thing. But there's so many viable and flourishing small businesses all over, but especially here.
Yeah. And that's, city council just passed a resolution that I brought to council member Diaz, the adjusting the home occupation agreement, the
Love that.
standards. Right now, yeah, you can run your business out of your home, but there's a few rules around it, um, that if they were lifted or modified could allow micro enterprises to incubate their business under the home occupation as a
Right.
way to test out their business idea.
Hmm.
Um, it's low risk. They're not signing a commercial lease.
Right.
They're not taking out a bunch of loans. I mean, they might still need equipment or whatever, but not for commercial space.
Yeah.
Really, you know, allowing folks to incubate the business out of their home or a building on their property so that they can build capital, build clientele, and have a pathway to a commercial lease, a commercial spot here in
Right.
Tacoma.
No, I love that because that is such a huge jump and a risk that businesses have to take when they say, well, when am I big enough to occupy a space? And how scary is that to sign a lease? And typically, as you know, commercial leases are not 6 months a year. It's 3, 5, 10-year leases.
Yeah, it's scary. And people, put up a lot of money to renovate it.
Hmm.
Man, if you're opening any sort of food, anything, that's a whole deal.
Yeah. Yeah. The
And
permits alone and processing.
yeah, it's just very expensive. And if folks can make it easier, because everything is expensive, right? Your own home, household expenses have gone up, and so have commercial real estate prices, right? They're
Right.
mirroring the residential prices. And how are you going to handle the increase of your own personal expenses plus a business
Right.
when
And
you're starting out? If you're
yeah.
around, you should be able to have it.
Yeah. The goal is to be able to do that. But
Yes.
you're right. When you're getting started,
Y-
it is very much like, okay, how are we going to make this work? And do
Yeah.
I buy inventory or buy dinner?
Right.
Yeah. Well, speaking of all of that with small businesses, tell us about SPUN. That's a small
Yeah.
business right here in
Yeah.
town.
We're a
A
micro
micro business,
enterprise.
micro
Yeah.
enterprise.
Yeah. So April and I went through the Spaceworks incubator program back in 2014. So I've come full circle here.
Ah.
Um, and at that time, there was a lot of vacant spaces in Tacoma, and our tagline at Spaceworks was from vacancy to vitality.
Mm,
And folks that go through it was called the Creative Enterprise Program at that time. And if you go through the program, you get the business training, you have a business plan. Um, Spaceworks would partner with property owners and be the main leaseholder, and we would get space free. Businesses that go through the program would get space if they found a space, free or a buck a month. It was really free, but a buck a month for six
sure.
months to incubate their business, try out their business idea. And April and I did that and it stuck. And we were on Hilltop for 8.5 years. And we just moved downtown, block off of Pacific Avenue, 23rd and A Street,
Huh.
2310 A Street. Um, yeah, so we are pottery. We're on the wheel. Folks can come down and do studio time, which means using the wheel, all of our tools. They can bring clay or buy clay. They can hand build. We have a slab roller and everything anyone would need for hand building. Um, we have
Uh,
classes.
yeah, does someone need to know how to make clay, to spin clay in order to show up?
We have a lot of folks that are like, I watched it on YouTube. And we're
Nice.
like, go for it. Good luck.
Mhm.
No,
Okay.
that's one thing. That's what we like to say we're the dive bar of pottery studios. So
Okay.
there's very, we have certain requirements for certain workshops. So if we're doing a specialty item on the wheel, you need to know how to center the clay on the wheel.
Sure.
Um, so that's like a prerequisite. But otherwise, if you just want to come in and fart around on a wheel and just see what it's about, we sell clay by the pound and you can do just that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the more
And
messing around, the more clay you're buying.
yeah, the more you mess up, the more
Yeah, exactly. That's
but
fair.
yeah, we fire stuff for people that are at home potters. They'll bring stuff in and we'll fire it in the kiln. We don't do paint your own pottery. But we do have adopt a pot. So folks that have made pieces and never came back to glaze them, or April and I are over a piece and we don't want to glaze it. Um, we put them in the adopt a pot, and there's all kinds of random stuff on that
Okay.
shelf. And so it sort of reminds me of the Great Pumpkin, like when Charlie Brown, I think it's the Great when he goes to the pumpkin patch and there's like one pumpkin left, or the Lonely
Mhm.
Pumpkin, I don't know, where there's like the one pumpkin that's left and it's super sad to me.
Yeah.
So it's like we can't throw these pots away. It's super
Right.
sad. Maybe someone will adopt them and
They
make them
will
their
find a
own.
home. They'll look right
Yeah.
just to somebody else. And
Yeah.
yeah,
So
I love that pumpkin patch analogy because there is that thing you look at the pumpkins in the pumpkin patch and somebody inevitably will love the one that's a different shape than and someone else wants the perfectly round pumpkin and someone else is like, oh my gosh, this is what I want. And they make it into a ghost or something that you never would have had the vision to see that shape in that pumpkin and someone else does.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's all about the vision.
I love that. And the fact that you not only are a business owner, an entrepreneur with a micro enterprise here in Tacoma, and then also run this program helping them, and you've gone through the program, I think that's such a strong force because you are seeing the issues and you're running into things. I'd love to hear, how easy was it? Just like, hey, I went through Spaceworks, now we're opening and life is great and I've never had a challenge again. Were there some mishaps a lot? Exactly. What were some of the biggest surprises or challenges when you started doing what you're doing?
Oh, well, I can tell you, April and I look back because we totally gutted that first space and paint like in a month. We like totally it was an office space and we totally transformed it in 1 month. And we
Wow.
did it for like $1,000. Like
Wow.
all of the trim was pallet wood
Okay.
that we cut up and then just like glued it on. We had a friend that donated the paint to paint the inside.
Okay.
We're super frugal. But we
Sure.
got it up and going and everything was great because we'd been buying equipment ahead of time, so we had all the stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, the biggest, you know what? It's dealing with landlords.
Mm,
We've
okay.
had three landlords. The first one, I feel like I could talk about because he's doesn't even live here and he sold it. So didn't tell us that he sold it.
Oh no. Wow.
And April happened to be there making stuff. We were closed, so she had the door locked, and somebody opened the door, like had a key and opened
Oh
the door and
yeah.
came in. And it was two guys, and she's like, "What the fuck?" And they walk in and they're walking through like the gallery space, going, "Well, I guess we're gonna have to get a truck to toss all this stuff out." And April's like, hold on a second.
Yeah.
What are you talking
What
about?
is going on here, right?
And I guess
Wow.
long story short, the landlord, there was miscommunication. The new buyer thought we were out already. And we're
Uh,
like, nobody told us when or
yeah,
if and or when we needed to be out. And
right.
so he gave us 30 days to get out. And we lucked out. Pastor Steele had a building 3 blocks down,
Nice.
on 13th. And so we moved in there. And, it's mainly like dealing with excuse me, dealing with landlords and like building issues. So
Okay.
at the space on 13th, like roof leaked, the ceiling caved in, we had to like use an umbrella to go to the bathroom for a while. Like it was,
Oh no.
I'm not joking.
Yeah.
Somewhere there's a picture of, I can't remember if it's me or April with an umbrella going to the bathroom.
And that's such an interesting point to think about and to have in your consideration because here you're running your business, but you're in a space that is owned and, structurally the responsibility of someone else. So you're at the mercy of them taking care of things. And you may choose to take on certain expenses fixing things if you need to, but then there's no guarantee you'll get that money back, even if you should. But
Yeah,
that can really impede business.
yeah. Thankfully, like I said, we're the dry dive bar of pottery studios. So it's
Lean into it.
we're just like, oh hey, by the way, if you're
Right.
if you're going into the bathroom, just take this umbrella.
It's charming.
It's charming. Yeah.
Put some galoshes on.
It's
I
indoor
love it.
outdoor
Yeah.
bathroom. But yeah, and now we're in 3,000 square feet. The space is pretty good. We had one flood of poo-poo water. That was
Oh
awesome.
no.
Um, Not our fault, so that was good.
Right.
Uh, yeah, and now summer's probably on the way out, but the AC quit working.
Oh no.
Yeah, but otherwise, other than that, it's good.
So how
But
do
that seems to
people,
be the thing, like
right, the
that's the big
building
pain in the
issues?
butt.
Yeah. And I feel like as I talk to different businesses, for each one, sometimes it's a different thing. Someone that's like, "Oh, I could never, my IT's always been a problem, or I could never get like this is always for whatever reason, there's a poltergeist in my computer, no
I
matter
was
what
just gonna
computer I
say
get."
we all have a gremlin type.
Yeah, exactly. So if people want to support Spun, if they want to come out, what's the best way for them to give you the love on the internet and here in town?
So, you can come by and see us. Saturdays are good days for that. Come by, say hey. But if you want to do any sort of classes or studio time, you want to go to spuntacoma.com to book that under services. And Spun Tacoma is our handle for Instagram and Facebook. And then of course Spaceworks Tacoma.com. Yeah, Tacoma on the end of everything. Spun
Right?
Tacoma and Spaceworks Tacoma.
Yeah, that was my next question is for Spaceworks, how do people get involved
Yeah.
there? You've got such a network, and that's one thing we didn't talk about as much with Spaceworks, but I'd love to hear it. What's it like for alumni once they've gone through? It's like, hey, I came to this program and that was great a few years ago, and I remember doing it, but I've never been involved since. Or what's that like for people afterwards?
But sometimes we have alumni that of all different levels of involvement, but they they all know that they can call me up or shoot me an email if they're having a struggle or there's an obstacle or they're not sure about this opportunity. Um, I let that be very well known. And then I have an alumni email list that I'm sending opportunities out. I always think, oh gosh, I hope they don't think I'm spamming them, but
Right.
whenever there's an opportunity, I make sure that our alumni are one of the first to know about it and so they can get on it.
Right. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you have workshops and things that are ongoing that alumni can come to as well anytime for
Yeah.
continuing learning.
Alumni and so monthly workshops are free and open to the public.
Excellent.
We didn't want to be so, I don't know. I I want to have, of course, in-depth support services for alumni, but I felt like it was also important to have something that the community could have access to. And so instead of doing monthly alumni workshops, it's, free and open to the public workshops. And that's on our events calendar on spaceworkstacoma.com. But I do have quarterly meetings with alumni where we just meet up and hang out for a couple hours and catch up. There's always a collaboration or two or
Something's
three or four or
always
five
shooting, and
coming
yeah,
coming out of those meetings. So yeah,
love that.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, the last thing I'm going to ask you is going to be what you can challenge our audience for and how they can own their awkward in the next couple weeks. Before that, I have to call out something awkward in that I don't know what button I didn't push on my lights, but the sun has been going down, and I don't know if you've noticed.
You've gotten darker and darker in
It's
the
getting
background.
darker and darker in here. I just have to point that out because I've kind of been going, it's a little bit awkward to get up and
Just
like
sitting in the
turn
dark.
a light on. It's like it keeps getting darker, and so if you're watching, yes, I'm aware that my lighting was not quite on for this one, but I must have hit a different setting on my light than normal.
Well, and I feel like I'm over lighting here. These are all my grow lights. But you can't
Okay.
see my plants because the lights are I don't know, there's probably a setting I can like make that
No, it's
less
great.
crazy.
That's fair.
Uh,
But yeah, it makes it look fun. It looks like Little
mm,
Shop of
mm,
Horrors or
mm,
something going, like a lot of
mm.
plants growing. Yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah, I was watching that. I was like going, oh my gosh, people could be like, what is happening? Is he melting away to nothing? And so
Yeah.
if you're listening, you're missing out on my bad lighting situation. But it's all about the conversation anyway. It's fun.
Yeah.
So how would you challenge people on how they could own their awkward?
Oh, well, I'm not the boss of anyone, so, you know, do with this what you will. Um, I'm not the boss of you. Do what you want.
Right.
Um, start thinking and saying, fuck it, fuck it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I feel like maybe I shouldn't apply for this thing. Fuck it, do it anyway. There's this book out there called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway.
Okay.
I say fuck it and do it anyway,
Yeah. I love that.
because it might not be fear.
Right.
So I feel like it covers more if you say that.
Mhm. Yeah, because you're right. A lot of times we're hesitant, and it might not be actual fear. It may be an insecurity. It may be and interesting. I pulled my friends on social media a couple of years ago now because I was in a moment where I was like, oh, I got to do this thing, but it's like, why am I holding back? And I asked people, are you more afraid of failure or more afraid of success? And it was surprising how neck and neck it was, but the results actually ended up being a little bit more fear of success because if you're successful, what it seemed to come down to is that people were afraid of succeeding and then having a bigger failure. And it's like
The
now
bigger
I
they
can
are, the
fall
harder
from
they
further.
fall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Versus no, if I stay here, I'm in my comfort zone and nothing's disrupted.
I feel like right now, like in this moment in my timeline of transitioning to director, that's a big step up, but it's also, I think the fear is more of letting people down.
Yeah, that's
Like,
fair.
I don't want to let my team down. I definitely don't want to let alumni down, and I don't want to let the community down
Hmm.
or, our partners
Right.
or,
Now,
I feel like it's important work.
right. Well, now, just since you brought that up, I know we were about to say see you later, but I just got to touch on this.
Yeah.
How do you how do you keep that from holding you back when you have the sense of like I don't want to let people down? Like for me, I know I have tended to undersell myself out of that fear of not wanting to let people down. I would lead with just so you know, I'm not that great. I can't do all these things or it won't be all this stuff because I wanted to make sure people knew exactly, what they were going to get and not feel like I overpromised. But eventually, if you're always saying that, then you're overriding you're undermining your own security in yourself. And so
Yeah.
I was coming across very, unconfident.
Yeah. Um, it's oh man, I just totally blanked out.
It's all good. No,
Obviously, I'm not worried about it.
I made that question
No,
too
I think
long, but
I think yeah, will you ask me again?
yeah. So how do you keep that from getting in that sense of now I'm blanking out. How do you keep that from getting in the way of your sense of security or confidence?
I know I'm doing the best I can do.
Okay.
And I have the resources and, thankfully, I have the privilege of having a good support system,
Hmm.
um, meaning my team, the chamber, Michael still, um, you, right? So like
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
like I can reach out to, who it's appropriate to reach out to
Yeah.
for support, feedback, direction if it's needed.
Yeah. I absolutely love that that's what you called out because when people know we're doing the best we can do, they know that we're giving it our all. They know that our heart is in it, and we know that they're there for their best interests and our best intentions are at heart. So that does make a huge difference.
It's and I'll add this to, how people can own their awkward. Oh, so now these lights came on. Um, 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 Surround yourself with people that have decent souls.
Yeah, I love that.
And, I'm trying to avoid saying surround yourself by people that believe all the same shit you believe, because don't do that.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah. Right, you do
and
need
then,
the diversity of different beliefs, but
yeah,
I love that you the way you word that as a decent soul because yeah, not everybody thinks the same and believes the same. And if we did, how boring would the world be? And only certain problems would be solved if only people were thinking a certain way, and there'd be a whole set of problems that were different that weren't getting solved. But their intention and their soul is what matters.
yeah. And I even hesitate to say, surround yourself by people that have the same values as you, because that might not, I'm not a
Right.
religious person. I
Yeah.
don't, you know,
Well, even
murder people, but
right. But even
you,
if you
you
look at even if you look at a business and the different people in the office that are required to run it, you need your accountant to really value the accuracy of recording and reporting.
yeah,
But a
and
salesperson isn't
honesty.
going to be as good at that. They're going to value relationship and all this
Yeah,
other stuff. And you need them valuing that you need someone valuing both things so that the place can thrive where you've got someone on with their finger on each set of values that are needed.
yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. Wow. Well, Jennifer, we could talk for hours.
I know.
I think we should call out for people who are watching and saw her move that little blanket that is not a kid you're hiding in the background. It's a Halloween decoration.
I'm getting ready. I'm getting ready for Halloween.
It's
And
coming right
it
around the
just
corner.
happens to be in this, I thought it was low enough that it would not be right there, but it's there.
I think it's awesome. But it was
And
just
then
we got
these
that
are
peekaboo.
legs.
Oh,
These are legs of another one.
oh my gosh, that's awesome. We're gonna have to check out the decorations when you're done because it's gonna be amazing.
Yeah.
So well, Jennifer, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Everybody, be sure you go out, follow Spaceworks, support the local businesses. If you're not in Tacoma, find out what incubators, what programs are in your town, and see what resources you may be able to access for yourself, for your business, or that you can help your community with. Because it's so important at the local level that we are supporting each other and that we know what resources are there. And all the small businesses, especially the creative ones like SPUN, get out there, support them. If you're not here, follow them on Instagram, follow them on social media because that is super helpful as well.
And we're fun.
And it's fun is fun.
Spun is fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Keeping Tacoma dirty since 2014.
I love that. Well, we got a little dirty today. We're gonna do it again. We're gonna keep it going, and Jennifer, I just appreciate everything you do so much for me, for our community. It's awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy. It was a pleasure.
And everybody else, go out there this week and own your awkward. Thank you so much for listening in for today's show. Be sure to visit awkwardcareer.com to continue your journey. And of course, please like, subscribe, and share with your friends so they can find their awkward side and learn how to own it.